So far, we have looked at describing the direction of our turn as clockwise, I can use my dog, clockwise or anti-clockwise. Now we are going to be thinking about describing the size of our turn. Now if I use my dog again, my dog could turn a tiny amount, or he could turn much further. In year 3, we're going to concentrate on describing the size of turns in 4 main ways. Now, if you think about the number 4 and think back to your fraction knowledge, hopefully that will already give you a clue about how we're describing the size of our term. So if I show the next circle, hopefully you might have spotted that if I'm going to split my circle into 4 parts, I am going to be using my quarters to describe the size of our turn. So we've got 1 quarter, 2 quarters, which we know from our equivalent fractions is the same as 1/2, 3 quarters, we go around, or if we go all the way around, 4 quarters is also the same as a whole. So we would use the word a whole turn or a full turn to describe it. Now we can obviously turn in different directions, but for what I'm going to show you now, we're just going to concentrate on turning clockwise, and then later on we'll think about how it will look different if we turn anti-clockwise. I'm also going to be starting with my dog always facing the top of the board, but again, we don't always turn facing from the same direction. So a bit later on, we're going to be thinking about what will happen if we start facing in a different direction. So if my dog is facing the top of the board, first of all, he is going to turn clockwise this much. Now, hopefully you have spotted from your fractions knowledge that he has made this much of a turn. He has made a quarter turn. He's covered 1 quarter of that circle. We can also use the shapes around us to help us. So he's started at the top of my board. He's turned towards the right of my board. That is a quarter turn. So if you are in a room, you might want to start facing one of the walls and turn to face the next wall that joins it, and that is a quarter turn. I'm going to start at the top again, and this time my dog is going to turn that much. So let me show you in pink as well, that's how far he has turned. So he started at the top of the board, turned, gone past the right hand side of the board, and he is now facing the bottom of the board. He has made a half turn. So he's started facing this direction and he's ended facing the opposite direction. So whenever you face the opposite direction, that's always going to be a half turn. If I start facing you and the wall behind you, I'm going to then turn and face the right wall, turn and face the opposite wall, and I have made a half turn. I'm starting the opposite way. I'm now facing the opposite way to what I started. For our next turn, if we start at the top of our board again, this time my dog is going to turn through the right wall, through the bottom, and then he's going to stop when he gets to the left this time. Let me show you in pink so you can see. This is the size of his turn, and if we have a look, you should have spotted that this time he's made a 3/4 turn. And then last of all, if we start at the top of the board again, this time he's going to turn, face the right, the bottom, the left, and all the way back to the top of the board where he started, so it doesn't even look like he's moved. That is how much he has turned, and hopefully you will have spotted that he has made a full turn or a whole turn. So we know that it's a whole turn if you end up facing the same way that you started. So if I start facing you and I turn and I keep going the opposite direction all the way around, I end up facing you again, I have made a full turn. What might be really helpful is if you practice with somebody around you in a room making different turns. So you might want to try and make a quarter turn. So if you face your piece of paper or your screen, make a quarter turn to the next wall, or you might want to start again in the same place and then practice making a half turn facing the opposite way, or a 3/4 turn, or a whole turn.